Welcome, and thank you for tuning in. You're listening to the Beyond 50 radio program. I'm Daniel Davis. As many of us are in relationships and we feel that sort of waning that makes us feel that it may be coming to an end, we desperately cling and claw to figure out what ways we can make love work. Well, sometimes it's maybe not as hard as you believe it is. It's just a matter of untethering yourself from the past and the experiences that you have that maybe make you feel like that's the reason you're reaching the end in the first place. Joining us here on the Beyond 50 radio program today, our guest uses alternative and ancient methods of shifting the thinking and approach between a couple about their marriage and their partner, incorporating traditions and shamanism to guide couples on a journey of soul retrieval, collecting the pieces and parts of the psyche that were inadvertently left in past trauma. She's been a professional intuitive for more than 20 years and has been blessed to work with personal and business clients, practicing meditation together with a special gift of sight that has given her insight into the many layers that we think of as reality. We're going to talk about love, how we can make it work between couples today, and this very unique approach. I'd like to welcome the Beyond 50 radio program today, our guest, Jane DeForest. Jane, thank you for joining us here on the Beyond 50 radio program.
Hi, Daniel. It's an honor to be on your show.
It sure is fun having somebody like you who shamanistically can help people make love work. How did you approach it from this perspective?
Well, actually, as an intuitive, people come with all their, different problems, and certainly relationship is the top of the heap. And so I just used the training that I've had from different modalities. I sort of consider myself the sampler platter. Women, of course, do more food analogies. But I'm a white girl, if you will, who grew up in the Christian tradition. So I had that base. But when I went on my spiritual path and searched different experiences, I was drawn to one of my most important teachers, who was a Lakota medicine woman. Now, I am not a native, so I in no way mean to represent that, but we're all indigenous from somewhere, and shamanism is ubiquitous on the planet, and it has different names, maybe animism, but it's really the base understanding that we are part of a system. We are not on the outside looking in, and that, in fact, Great Spirit is part of everything. It also allows for ancestors to be part of everyday life. So it just resonated with me. I also have studied and practiced Vipassana Buddhism for about 20 years. And I meditate sort of every day, not always. And I really consider myself maybe a advanced beginner, even after 20 years. But it did teach me a very important aspect of clearing mind, a wonderful practice. But what I use is the Metta, M-E-T-T-A meditation, which I actually have for free download on my website. The understanding that these Buddhist, the truth in Buddhism is too precious to be charged for. I love that. And it is the fastest, most effective way of heart opening that I've found. And how it starts is in meditation, love for self, then love for someone or an animal I'll use that is so easy to love, children, or and then the next person in the meditation is your greatest benefactor, who has helped you the most. It might be a parent, a grandparent, a teacher. And then when I work with couples, I try to bring the couple in at that point. So I'm adjusting the metta meditation, which is loosely translated as loving kindness. But it's a way to open the heart to your partner when sometimes that is the last thing we want to do. But I really see both of those, the Vipassana meditation and the Shamanic journey, bringing back pieces that we've left in arguments. We leave a piece of ourselves, we get hurt. It's almost as if a piece of flesh is lopped off, or a piece of our soul. And just pulling those back so we can be present. And then the last, actually, there's two more. One that I use after that is a type of breathing. It's sometimes called a Kundalini breath. It's used in tantric. It's a religion, really. But the only piece that I work with tantra is I call unity breath. But I teach couples to breathe. There's a special technique. Breathe together, following each other's breath. And it's really profound. It's really, really profound because it takes the couple beyond words. In its physical experience of entrainment that isn't a sexual relationship. And I don't touch sex and I don't touch talk therapy. Where I'm going is that place that is sacred between the couple. If you want to imagine it as a visual, it would be a meadow. Or as Rumi says, the field beyond right and wrong. And in that field or that meadow, surrounded by the trees that we all have difficulty seeing the truth. I'm a student too here. I encourage people to enter that place, that through the right brain, that creative place where people can entrain. And the last piece that I use is helping couples to visualize ideal future. And I use a technique called remote viewing. All these techniques do not require any kind of special ability. Everybody can do this. Just picturing an ideal future where there's harmony and balance in the relationship, being there in your mind through meditation, and then I call it tethering. I anchor a tether, and sometimes people see that as a cord or a cable, in the future to the now, so that the couple can find their way to that place. Mm-hmm. Did I answer your question?
I think you actually thoroughly did, and probably a more unique way than a listener is used to. They're like, well, what's this all about? But the fact is that it seems that your approach is based on energetic intuition, it sounds like. Would that be an accurate way to describe it?
Right. I first have a intuitive consultation session with the couple, and I'm able to see in my mind's eye energy dynamics within the couple. So I will do a drawing and I will analyze what I see. And when I do a consultation, I always make sure that I'm able to access accurate information, that there's no way I could rationally or logically know. And I'll probably try to get 3 to 5 accurate hits before I proceed. 99% of the time, it's a go. I can't take pseudoephedrine into a reading. But then we work from there and do these exercises. It's absolutely miraculous, I have to say.
Now, you mentioned using the right brain. Tell us a little bit more about why that's important.
Daniel, can you ask me that question again, using the what?
The right brain approach?
The right brain.
Yes.
I thought you said the light blade, and I was
No.
like, oh, that's cool. I need one of those.
We don't have magic wands around the Beyond 50 radio program, just practical shamanic approaches.
Exactly. Right, thank you. The right brain is the part of our brain that processes, and I say process because I'm not sure, I don't really believe that our thoughts are generated from our brain. I certainly can't prove that, but I feel more like the brain is more like a physical computer, and that somehow we're accessing information from some other place. I'm not sure what it is, but the right brain accesses that information in a way that is symbolic, it's intuitive, it's feeling, it's creative, it's movement, whereas the left brain is linear, analytical. It's where mathematics, language. The right brain is where we process art and music, and it is, the problem, if you will, with couples that I see, and people are actually having a pretty hard time, Daniel. I'm glad I'm doing this work because, it's hard for couples to stay together with what's coming at them now.
I agree. I mean, it's really difficult in this world to be able to have your needs met as well as your partner's needs. And the other thing, too, is that we tend to have imprinted on us what relationships are supposed to be like through our parents. Then there's also the fantasy of what, let's say, Hollywood produces to make us believe that we think that that's what love is. But the funny thing is although we may fall in love, that falling in love feeling never really lasts, and then you realize, well, it's time to roll up your sleeves and go to work, and it's like, well, I never seen that in the movie. I thought it was just supposed to be happily ever after. That's kind of an interesting way, to look at all this, but there's so much truth in that, and the disappointment that a person or two people can feel when they feel that feeling has slipped away, and it's like, now what?
Oh, well put, Daniel. Exactly. I love the way you drew those two together. That's exactly what I'm doing. You nailed it. I'm dealing with the loss of that feeling. Exactly. How do we get that back, right? You go on the weekend with, get away from the kids or, whatever, or work, and you go away for the weekend with your beloved and try to rekindle that or try different ways. And it might work for a while, but it is at that point where I see couples typically stray. The woman, and it's pretty equal, I have to say. And I think I'm sort of old. I think in my day, I'm 53, but, it was more men, but I think with women are straying too. And whether it's an actual physical betrayal or whether it's an emotional betrayal, we crave as humans connection, and that is where the love is. It's like the connection, if you can imagine, is a conduit or a PVC pipe, and if you can imagine it from your heart to your partner's heart, the more open your heart is, the more open the PVC pipe is, the more love can travel back and forth, and that's exactly what I work on, is bringing that back. The other part of that is when we do stray, that feeling goes away from the relationship. And if you can imagine it as a color, say it's blue, and we think that that is a manifestation of relationship with someone outside the marriage, when it really is a function of the yearning that we have needing to create that, and the third person is really the person that's helped manifest that within the straying person in the relationship. So what I help people do is bring that feeling back into the relationship, and don't shame people for, having a crush on someone or having an affair.
It's difficult, too, because monogamy is one of those things that we yearn for, but sometimes, as you're describing, people will tend to think, well, I'm kind of feeling attracted to this other person over here, and that sense of shame that goes probably to the fact that perhaps they have a feeling of weakness. But as you're saying, that's inherently seeming with all of us.
I think so. I mean, I would imagine that, sorry, I was going to say something else. There's a lot of shame out there. I have to say, I'm surprised at how many people really feel bad about themselves in very normal expressions of their humanness. And this would be a primary example that I can't imagine how anyone could go through life without falling in love with a variety of people, but that doesn't mean it has to be followed through.
Well, there's the key too. We tend to feel that we should, or we're missing out on something, but the fact is, you're missing out on an opportunity to really grow in a deeper relationship. It's sort of like that Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young song. If you can't be with the one you love, then love the one you're with.
Well put. I love how you said that. And by deepening the relationship and bringing the infatuation or the love that might have wandered out back into the relationship, it gives the relationship the nourishment that it needs to feed both of the couples. And having a monogamous relationship is what I deal with. I think it's critical. It's my opinion. When we make love to someone, it affects the energetic pattern. I see it with my intuition. And one of the things that Patricia, my Lakota teacher, taught me, which is really, she taught me the most. She was such a tough teacher too. She would not let me take notes, and I think of her so often. And she taught me that every time that we have an intimate experience with our beloved, we take one stitch in the basket, in the woven basket. So as you can imagine, after a year of monogamy, it is a little basket, but it's a strong basket. Maybe after 10 years, it's a bigger basket and even stronger, a wonderful container for loving the sacred love between a couple. And, a 25-year marriage is an exquisite basket. Now, I do see that infidelity will blow a hole in that, and too many holes in the basket can't sustain. But I think it's essential, whether a relationship lasts or doesn't, that at least both partners are completely in it. So either stay in the relationship in a good way or leave in a good way.
I like the way that you put that because, for one, it reminds me of the Reverend Schiller, who was talking about it doesn't matter why you leave, but it's how you leave. And that's in the perspective of things just don't seem to work out in a relationship. But it seems so troubling because if a relationship doesn't tend to work, it's almost like we want to blame the other person for why that didn't happen, but you're usually 100% responsibility for an outcome, aren't you?
Well, certainly 50% for sure, but you're right, 100% for yourself. I agree. Yeah, I spent a lot of time blaming my husband, absolutely. And of course, that is a reflection of personal work. And you really touched on the kernel of the problem in relationship is entering into relationship in a low state of consciousness, meaning blame, shame, those are the biggies.
Right.
As opposed to entering into mentally and emotionally entering into that field of the relationship, the container of the relationship, from a place of unconditional love is profound. And what I do see is it's almost like alchemy, and I'm just going to take a sip of water 1 second. Thank you. That a couple together is more powerful, the union of opposites, if you will. The yin-yang is more powerful together than separately when the couple enters that union with unconditional love. It's almost like, when another cooking analogy, do forgive me, I'm a housewife and an artist. But when you're making sauce and you're stirring the sauce over the stove with cornstarch in it, and there's that certain point where it turns, really thick. It's a quickening, and that's what I see at a couple. If they can practice entering that field, that sacred field in the relationship, even just 5 minutes a day, it will grow and nourish the relationship.
Mm-hmm. Now, when couples, when they work with you, do they feel glad that they've actually went on this journey together? And what does that outcome look like for people that you have worked with?
The feedback's positive. I mean, I'm not perfect. I probably put my accuracy at about 80% of what I'm seeing. But you know, and I'm very honest. I'm not God, so that would cost extra. But
right. God can be pretty expensive, especially in a day and age like today. So.
But I mean, we all have a spark of God. But I mean, it's funny, people. It's that's an aside. That wasn't the question you asked, but I do find it's interesting when I'm doing a reading and people are stupefied in the beginning at the accuracy of what I'm seeing, and then it's just too much for the brain to handle. So they'll, you know, they'll correct me on the funniest stuff. Like I'll say, you know, I see some round discs. They're metal in your dresser. It's in the far left-hand corner of your room, third drawer down. And they're like, no, it's the second drawer down.
Ah.
I'm like, okay. It's just too much to handle for the brain to see that. But to answer your question directly, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. I've had the most of my couples, at least at this point, I've been able to keep intact. Some haven't, you know, and maybe they're not supposed to be together, but and they've come to a deeper place in their relationship. But I can't take credit for that. I mean, what I'm doing is bringing through. I'm opening my conduit, my heart, in a loving way, and I really believe that what I'm accessing is a sort of love that feels to me like a maternal, a enveloping, profound, compassionate love. That's my experience of God, what I call it, or the light. And the more that I bring through that, the more I can help them and try to teach them, the couple, how to do that.
Mm-hmm. You know, it's an interesting approach to think that you use, you know, again, we'll call it shamanistic intuition, and, you know, the idea of remote viewing to be able to perceptively bring energies out of people where they can realize this is where you really make your decisions, and this is, you know, perhaps through this veil or filter that the two of you are experiencing each other, and that if you could clear that and really see each other for who you are, that would really change a lot of dynamics. As I was saying earlier in the program, most of the time we really model our loving relationships as a result of what we actually learn from our parents. Do you find that quite a bit in couples?
Bingo, exactly. And just to clarify, the shamanic is only one. The shamanic approach is only one small aspect of how I'm approaching it, although an important one.
Well, you got God on your side too, so.
Yeah, and that's interesting that you said that, because that's exactly the point, is to see in the other person the mystery, the great mystery that is within them represented, which I believe is a spark of the divine, instead of past history of arguments or, you know, sort of the puny human aspect within the couple. And I try to encourage them to leave that behind and even just for 5 minutes, experience the other couple, the other person in the couple, as the divine, the aspect of the divine mystery that they carry within their heart.
Very well said. How is it possible? Can you work with people? Do you have to work with them face-to-face, or can you work with them remotely as well?
Oh, definitely. I do Skype and phone calls. And, yeah, it used to be more that I really like to do readings in person, consultations in person. But it's funny. I think things are really changing. So I really see very little difference if I'm doing it over the phone or Skype than in person. It doesn't really seem to matter. What does matter is is the state of me and the state of the other people or person that I'm reading. If people are really scattered, like if I'm reading somebody at work or in the car or something like that, it's better if people are centered. But yes, I think you make a really, really good point.
This is such fascinating work here. You said you have pretty good results, it sounds like, from working with couples, and I'll bet it really astounds them to have tools that really give them a new approach to having a loving relationship.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm an intuitive, so, I'm sitting here with a couple, and I'm like, I can see the guy's, addicted to pornography, and the woman has turned away because she's bored. By the way, a lot of women are bored. That's what I see. And a lot of men are distracted.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly. Women are bored. Mm-hmm.
What causes women to be bored? Because they don't see the excitement of what they see on a television or a movie program?
I mean bored in the relationship.
Right. Well, that's what I mean, though. Is
I'm sorry.
Why can't I have it like I see there, For instance, I couldn't, this one just blew my mind. I remember years ago, there happened to be, it was in a restaurant, actually in the lounge, and they had The Bachelorette on. And, of course, it comes to the end where apparently she has decided this is the guy that she's going to be with out of the 3 dozen men she gets to start off with. And they're standing, out there, and she's basically in the princess dress. It's at night, and this big romantic proclaiming their love for each other. And I was watching these women in the lounge just eat this up, and I'm thinking to myself, are you kidding me?
That's
really?
A really good... I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just, there it is. I was just like, really? You guys say you want this, and when you get it, you trash it. I don't understand that.
You make a really good point, is that certainly people have, I don't want to say unrealistic ideas, but...
I want to say unrealistic because I was watching a lot of unreality that day.
Yeah, maybe you're right.
What's next? The pumpkin coming in and turning into a glass coach? Where do we draw the line here?
That's a really excellent point, which is another thing I learned from some of my teachers, is life is messy, and a relationship is messy. And I agree. I think that we've certainly seen relationship portrayed as fulfilling by external indicators. And, the truth is, the core of the relationship is connection. It's not, where you go out to dinner or where you honeymoon or where you, whether you're, it really is about authentic connection, and that's how to have a truly fulfilling life. But and it's not, I don't like to present it as work, because I really feel it's almost like taking off the veneer of illusion or false expectations, which is what I think you allude to.
Absolutely. I keep thinking of that scene in the show Cheers, where Woody has proclaimed that he's ready to be married, and he's only dated the girl for 2 whole days. Sam Malone says, "Are you out of your mind? You're not ready for marriage yet." And he says, "Well, how will I know I'm ready?" He says, "Well, what you got to do is you got to live together for a while, and then get to the point where you're really sick of each other. Then you're ready for marriage."
Exactly, and that's a way to do it. Now, I do have clients who are in different cultural traditions. People do it differently. One couple that I worked with only met each other a few times and were married after that. They're the Asian culture. So people do it differently, and people think, this is a whole other topic, but this is probably the most fascinating aspect of what I do, is that the way people think takes form, and that's how I see things. I see things symbolically. I'm an artist, and that's how I discovered. Are you okay that I'm rambling around answering about 3 different questions at once?
Oh, that's okay. You know, you got to use a holistic approach.
Bless your heart. Thank you. But I forgot where it was.
That's okay. We just take one step at a time, because I'm sure many couples feel that way too when they come to see you. We forgot where we were.
I know, exactly. Thank you for reflect. That's exactly it. And that brings me right back. I'm glad you said that, because I don't want to go on a tangent. I want to talk about the couples. So we
believe in making love work in a very rambling way sometimes.
Yeah, and I think it's hard for men, because how are they supposed to live up to this Cinderella ideal? And I think it's hard for women because, they get bored or they get distracted by the children. Having little children around changes a woman's psyche, from lover to wife to mother. And that mother is a whole different texture than, lover. So it does take a little bit of a shift, but I have to say I'm very, very encouraged by how people are so willing to just take 5 minutes, even if it's just the unity breath that I teach, and leave behind it almost seems like 1 or 2 arguments that's a strain that goes, it's a strain and a strain that goes through a relationship, and it's sort of the same argument that the couple keeps having, and somehow leaving that to the side and being able to connect in a completely different way and bring that love back. It can absolutely work. Absolutely. And when you fall back in love with your beloved, it is the most profound love, and that's what the feedback is. It is much better than that infatuation that started in the beginning because it is deeper. If you think of it like a color, it's maybe like a mauve or a light purple when it starts. But, after 5, 10, 15 years of marriage, falling back in love is a deep, rich purple.
That's very exciting. I guess Valentine's actually had its colors right, didn't they?
Exactly.
Well, Jane, it's certainly been a pleasure to have you on the program, and I'm wondering if you can give out information where people can find a way to get in touch with you.
Oh, that would be great. Thank you so much. My website is janesinspiration.com, and there's so much bumping up against a couple now. And my secret agenda is to have a better place for my kids to grow up in. And I see a lot of my, split homes, and it's real hard on the kids. So, strong families make strong communities, make a web, a connection around the world. And, there's a renaissance going on. People are waking up. People are wanting more. And it's very, very hopeful and exciting for me.
Jane, thank you so much for joining us here on the Beyond 50 radio program today. What a pleasure.
Daniel, it was really great. I really enjoyed talking to you. Thank you so much for the opportunity.
You bet, and have a happy Thanksgiving.
Exactly. Thank you. Happy Thanksgiving. Be well.
You bet. And we want to thank you, the listeners out there, for tuning in. You can discover more by visiting us at beyond50radio.com. That is the number 50. You can also follow us on Twitter at Beyond50Radio as well as Facebook. I'm Daniel Davis. Thank you for tuning in. This is the Beyond 50 radio program, and remember, live your day past halfway.